Sometimes I wish I was naive to what I now know about food labels. When food marketing is done well, it slips through our human radar of critical thinking. Product of the USA means product of the USA. No cholesterol means it's healthier than the pack that doesn't address the same food cholesterol content. Natural means natural. No added sugar means sugar-free. All of this is true, right? Food, beverage, and restaurant companies in the US spend almost $14 billion, not million, billion dollars annually on advertising, which I think is important to note because this is an industry of them trying to sell you a product. The lengths to which some companies may go to sell you a product can be very misleading and deceptive, and that is what I want to discuss today. Not only am I going to discuss 5 ways companies can be misleading and deceptive, but I'm also going to give you real life examples with each point so you have practical information when you're out and about shopping for your food. So let's jump right into it. The first point I want to discuss is when food labels are labeled with the word natural, all natural, or made with natural ingredients. When thinking about a food labeled with this, you would imagine it is just that food, right? Nothing else is in it. It is natural. It's natural self. That is not necessarily correct though. Merriam-Webster's definition of natural food is food that has undergone minimal processing and contains no preservatives or artificial additives. But what does the FDA have to say about the definition, because they are the ones regulating how our food is labeled, right? Well, come to find out, of the information I have extensively researched, nor the FDA nor the USDA have strict guidelines for the word natural on food labels. The loosely held standard of natural food, according to the USDA guidelines, means that the product cannot contain artificial ingredients and should be minimally processed. Well, minimally processed means processing food in a manner that does not fundamentally alter the product. The FDA also has further said that the word natural does not and should not describe the nutritional value or health benefit of a food. So when you are out grocery shopping, do not let this word play on your emotions. It may have that label, but that does not mean it is a good choice. Practically, this looks like picking up a jar of Skippy natural peanut butter. You can see that the label says natural, right? But look at the ingredients. It contains added sugar and palm oil. This is misleading. I would argue though that this is better than the regular Skippy peanut butter with these ingredients, but it is still misleading. The fact that it has added sugar and palm oil does not make the buyer think it is natural. If you are looking for truly natural peanut butter, you can make your own at home, grind it at Whole Foods, or get it from a grocery store like Aldi or Kroger. We are big Aldi shoppers and buy the simply natural organic kind, which is truly only peanuts and sea salt. That is what I expect when reading a label, all natural. The second misleading word you may see on a label is no cholesterol. This point is simple and sweet and does not take much time to discuss. Know that only animal products contain cholesterol. That's it. Fruits do not, veggies do not, rice does not, only animal products. Take a look at this company's snacks. They are labeled cholesterol free. Well, why even put this label if it's not an animal product? Labeling like this can be misleading, making you think, wow, this has no cholesterol. The other snack bars must. So thirdly, let's talk about the label made with real fruits and veggies. Well, come to find out, again, the FDA does not regulate how much of that real food must be in that product. Take a look at Welch's fruit snacks. If made with just one grape, it can be labeled made with real fruit. How misleading is this? And very deceptive. Also very frustrating, I might add. Dig into Welch's a bit further and you will note these are made of 21 ingredients. 21 ingredients in these fruit snacks. The front says it's made with real fruit, but take a look on the other side. Take a look at the ingredients. You also will get all of this. I wonder how much is really real fruit. After a bit of Googling, I found out Welch's fruit snacks contain at least 45% real fruit. I then went on to read, fruit snacks are often made up of mostly sugars, artificial flavors, and artificial colors, and are more similar to candy than fruit. Moving on to our fourth misleading word, and this is wheat. We all have heard wheat bread is better than white bread, right? But is it really? And what actually is wheat bread? It's just wheat, right? Let's take a deeper dive into this too. Wheat bread is made up of yeast,
like yeast,
leavened dough, which contains whole wheat flour mixed with eggs, milk, and or liquid sweeteners. And did you catch what I said there? It must contain whole wheat flour. That does not mean it is completely whole wheat flour. This can be very misleading, as when you pick up wheat bread, you would imagine it is only wheat flour in your bread. If you pick up whole wheat bread, however, this must be 100% whole wheat flour. The FDA does not allow manufacturers to put any white or refined flour in whole wheat products. Again, let's get practical. Take this great value bread, for example. It is labeled wheat. Look further and you will see it has enriched wheat flour and just whole wheat flour in it. In parentheses, the enriched wheat flour says flour and malted barley flour amongst other ingredients. When shopping, know that if your bread says wheat, you are probably not getting just wheat flour in your bread, but is wheat flour mixed with other flours, like in this case. Take a look at 100% whole wheat bread though, and you will notice the ingredients only contains whole wheat flour and cultured wheat flour. This specific bread does contain a slew of other ingredients, which I personally would stay away from, but now you know practically what to look for if you are shopping for wheat bread. Don't just look for wheat, but look for 100% whole wheat. Now on to our last misleading term. This one makes no sense to me. This is the term fat-free. According to the Code of Federal Regulation Guidelines, a product to be labeled fat-free, free of fat, no fat, zero fat, without fat, negligible source of fat, or dietarily insignificant source of fat, or skim, must meet all three of these requirements. I won't read these word for word, but just in the first point, it says the food contains less than 0.5 grams of fat per serving. And that tells us right there is fat in this product. Although it is a minimal amount of fat, a very, very minimal amount of fat, I might add, it still does contain it. Know that when buying products that say fat-free, it still may contain a very little amount of fat, which is why it is so important to read ingredients and nutrition labels. I would argue that the ingredient label is kind of more important than the nutrition label. While researching for a practical example for you all, I came across Land O'Lakes fat-free half and half. Now the nutrition label says there are 0 grams of fat, but if you read the ingredient label, you will notice after the ingredient corn syrup cream, disgusting, there is an asterisk. When reading what the asterisk means, it concludes that this ingredient adds a trivial amount of fat. Of course, it does say trivial, probably not enough to have to make them put it on the food label, but it still is there. What I said in the beginning of this video, I still stand on. Sometimes I wish I was naive to what was going on in big food, as this can be very frustrating hearing these misleading titles. Not only are titles misleading, but some lobbyists push to avoid putting words on food altogether. September 3rd of 2014, this article was titled "The Anti-Label Lobby. Industry Lobbying Boils Over in Bid to Block Labeling of Genetically Engineered Food." As I know this article is old, it is important to bring up history. Some lobbyists were pushing to not have to put on labels if food was genetically engineered, and these lobbyists spent a lot of money pushing this. $42.7 million in just 2 quarters was spent to lobby not having to label food as genetically engineered. Fast forward to today, and food is required to have this label, but now we know it as contains bioengineered food, genetically modified, or contains genetically modified foods. You might also know it as GMO foods. So as we close, I urge you to be mindful of what you are buying, do research into what foods are best for you, and keep informed on what is going on in the big food industry. The food industry is exactly what it sounds. It's an industry or just plain and simple, it's a business. They are trying to sell you a product and will go to any length they can to make that product the most appealing item over others, so you buy it. One day I will have to go into a video all about organic labeling, but I need to do a lot more research there before I present it to you all. If you are passionate about holistic living and are interested in how I lead and live a holistic life, whether that be clothing, skincare, beauty products, vitamins, meats, etc., check out the links in the description of this video. I'm very passionate about this subject and would love for you all to learn just a little bit more about it too. Thank you for tuning in today, and I will see you in next week's video. See you, everyone.